just saw the record thing on it. I'm like, I'm gonna stop talking right now. Yeah, yo, the games being on this early, it's so funny too, because it's like, the people that are up and watching it, you either work in the media or you're like the diehard like Canada basketball Raptors Twitter person. Do you know what I mean? Like the diehard to be up mad early. And like the next game, the semifinals, because Canada won, the semifinals is at 4:45 in the morning.
4:45?
4:45 in the morning.
I will not be watching that.
No, and I mean, dude, I totally get it, right? Like that's mad early. But, there'll be replays. It'll be replayed, and then, whatever happens, if they win that game against Serbia, they play, you'd assume the U.S. in the final. Mm-hmm. And then that would be, I want to say like 8:45 on Sunday morning, which is more manageable. But like, that's also a great lead into a full day of NFL, right? So that's just a great day of sports watching. Here we are, Where's Webby? Did I not send that to him?
Check the spam.
No, I sent it. But yeah, man. I mean, that game, this tournament so far for Canada has lived up to all the hype, and I'm kind of mad because there wasn't enough hype at the same time. But
yeah, it's tough because it's like probably the best team they've ever had in anything, and then they're playing at like 8 in the morning.
Yeah,
true shame. It's a true shame.
It really, really is, and then it's not like, next year when they play in the Olympics, obviously the Olympics are a bigger deal and you'd assume more people will try to wake up for it. But still, you're talking different time zones. And, the numbers actually weren't that bad for the game that they clinched the Olympics against Spain on a Sunday morning. But like, they weren't too bad. Like, they weren't that bad. But it's like, it makes you wonder what would those numbers be if that shit was in prime time. Mm-hmm. Like that game was such a monster game, like 2 double-digit comebacks, big time shots. Like it was just, I don't know. It makes
that Spain game. Did they was that the only time they were leading at the end, or was there a point where they were, or were they down the entire game?
No, they were down the entire game and they kept fighting back. They came back. They're down 10 at half, and then in the third quarter they came back to like tie it and then blew the lead again. And then we're down 12 going into the fourth. So it was just, I can't lie to you, watching the game, I was like, damn, they're done. Like I thought they were done multiple times. And credit where credit is due, man. Dylan Brooks, no Canadian anywhere should slander Dylan Brooks ever again. Ever again. Because like, what this guy did was just insane. And, I can't lie to you either. At a certain point, it's like, hey, the ball gets swung to Dylan Brooks with confidence. My guy tries with confidence. He takes a shot, no hesitation to tie the game and splashes it and is just blowing kisses to the crowd. Like the celly's just crazy. And he shoots it and you're watching like, oh, I don't know about this shot. And my guy splashes it. And now it's just like, hey, do you, man? He's got to play on an edge. And I think that's just amazing. And, really what's been going on behind the scenes, I think has been really, really cool. Like Jordi Fernandez, I feel a couple things here. One, Raptors fans are going to, I feel like Raptors fans that are paying attention to this, there's a side of them that feels like they should have hired Jordi Fernandez, which is unfair because it's unfair to say that because we know nothing about Darko, right? Yeah. Raptors fans know nothing about Darko, but what's going on with Jordi Fernandez right now because he's leading Team Canada to a medal.
He also has the SGA on his team, though. Sure. SGA is not walking through that door in the ACC, my friend.
In the ACC, what do you mean?
Well, like Darko, Jordy, whoever coaches the Raptors isn't going to be coaching SGA. Yeah, Jordi Fernandez looks really smart because he's got the best player in the tournament.
I think it goes deeper than that. So there's a couple of things, right? Like, so Shai obviously is a really good like kid, right? He's a good guy. So Jordy calling him out for whatever goes over fine. It doesn't have to be that way though, right? Like Shai is a really good guy to accept that. What I'm saying though is the coach that has the balls to call out the star player. That's what the Raptors are missing. That's what the Raptors need. So
I'd say
if
the Raptors need
had
a star player. They don't have a star player. They don't have
that.
They don't have the
Before
talent.
you get to that,
the difference is
hold on.
No. The difference
Before
is
you get to
Team
that, though,
Canada has the talent to do really well in this tournament. The Raptors don't have the talent to do really well.
But we're talking about two different things. I'm not talking about the Raptors winning a championship. I'm not talking about the Raptors winning anything. What I'm talking about is developing the players that you do have. So you're deciding that you're going to stick with Scotty Barnes and OG and Pascal Siakam for now, right? We watched last year, the real issue with the Raptors was that they just didn't consistently play well enough, right? Like consistently, they couldn't bring it night in, night out. You demanded defense from them. You didn't really get that night in, night out. And what I'm saying is Nick Nurse, we know this, right? Because we know the stories that happened, whether it was Pascal beefing with them in the locker room, whether it was Masai having to come out. As it was reported last year, Masai had to come out to talk to Scotty Barnes and try to get him to play consistently. What I'm saying is Jordy Fernandez, if I'm coaching Team Canada and I feel comfortable enough to call out Shai because he's not, rotating properly on the defensive end, or he's not, running back hard on defense, or I'm sitting Kelly Olynyk, who's the captain of the team, to start the second half because it's a better matchup. You have the balls to do that. You definitely would have the balls to get on Scotty Barnes. And I'm saying that's what the Raptors need. I'm not talking about wins and losses. I'm talking about development and where the Raptors are, the same way we're talking about development and where the Canada basketball program was and where it now is. Yes, the talent, obviously Shai is the best player that they've seen since Steve Nash. We know that. And when you go down the line, like the second, third, fourth, this is the best team they've ever been able to put together. But you still needed the right coach to do that. And I don't know how Nick Nurse would have vibed with all of this, or, what his schemes or what would have been different with Nick Nurse. I have no idea. All I can say is Jordy Fernandez, his vibe with this team, like the clips that you're seeing during the game when they were down big versus Latvia, I think it was. And the thing with FIBA basketball and like this broadcast is you can hear the coaches in the huddle. And so Jordy's yelling at the team.
Oh, he's out.
We dropped out. Well, he was making a great point. What can you say?
I wanted to jump in, though, and just be like, all this camera time, though, is it just like, is he benefiting from all the camera time? Like, we don't know, like, all the other coaches, right?
I think he's benefiting from having the best player in the tournament, is what I think that Jordy Fernandez is benefiting from. Sure, he's a great guy, a great coach, great assistant coach, has lots of experience, but let's be real. If I had Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in an international tournament, I think I would look pretty smart too.
Webby, I agree.
Shai is on another level. But I want to talk about the complete transformation of the image of Dylan Brooks. Because, man, how many, like 3 months ago?
Yeah.
We were hammering this guy for calling out LeBron, for saying all this stupid shit. Nobody was going to sign this guy. And then Houston gave him all this money, and everybody was like, what are you doing? You've got more money than brains giving all this to Dylan Brooks. And now, because he's played very well in the tournament, you can't deny that. Now he's a Canadian hero. And so I just think it's funny that there was, and I'm with it too. I didn't think that Dylan Brooks would have this in him, even in a tournament like FIBA, especially in a tournament like FIBA.
I think it's the power of like LeBron and the Lakers and like social media. You can just, one guy can be at the fucking top of the hill, and the next second, one game, boom, you're gone. You make one bad decision, you come at the king, and you miss.
That's why they say you best not miss.
But yeah, the reclamation project in this in the FIBA tournament for him has been fucking awesome.
You're going to start to see people walking around with Dylan Brooks jerseys on. I don't think I'm ready for a world where people spend hundreds of dollars on a Dylan Brooks jersey. He's played great, but I can't do it, bro. I can't do it.
It'd be like if Canada had Coach Prime on their team, he would have the D on his
That's
jersey.
right.
The dog.
That's right. What now, Timmy? I know you're not a huge college football fan, but even you have got to be getting into this Colorado story here.
It's just a meme factory. This team, everything about them.
It's
like
unreal.
Sick.
They've already matched their win total for all of last year. So I was like reading about it, and I've been like listening to everybody's talking about it after a huge win on Saturday against TCU, who was in the national championship game.
Sorry. No. I'm back. Sorry.
No. We're talking about a real sports story here. We're talking about a real sports story.
No. I'm not letting you do this because you know why? This is the World Cup of basketball. If you are a basketball fan.
Shelly, exactly.
No.
Bro, it's FIBA, bro.
No.
Okay? These games are happening at 4:45 in the morning, okay? I understand. It's incredible. Canada's made the Olympics. That's where your bread is buttered. This tournament's over. Like, they've made the Olympics.
Jimmy Butler isn't even watching this tournament. He's watching tennis.
Disagree.
He's watching the USA staying up late for the US Open.
I wholeheartedly disagree with everything that you're saying because your man, first off, like this whole like American high horse that like everything centers around just what America cares about. Like, first off, like there's a reason. Do you know how packed the stadium is in the Philippines right now? No, they've moved to Manila right now. But like
big
Thrilla in Manila.
Exactly. Do you understand like how packed it is there? Do you understand how big of a deal it is for Luka and how these guys play? This guy blowing smoke. Yo.
Sorry. No, I'm not even.
What is happening right now? Right. But like, I'm just saying this is a massive deal worldwide and you can't just have a tournament. Just like you need to build the steps to get there. The same way that the Canadian program needs to build the steps to get there. You have this thing called the World Cup.
Team Canada has gone through their progressions with this new team and they're making obvious strides. They're the second best team in the world. They've got the best player in this tournament. But the problem is, bro, this is FIBA World Cup. It's not exactly best on best. Can we agree on that?
No, hold on a second. That's just because the U.S. is being over cocky and just making up a random team.
Send their best players. It's not best on best.
Who didn't send their best players? The U.S. You're basing that all on the U.S. being their own cocky selves, being like, we could just throw together whatever team and we're going to win.
What about Serbia?
Okay.
Yeah,
Mans is having
playing for Serbia.
Hold on. Mans is having a summer. In case you didn't notice, his also teammate that would be on Team Canada also is not there.
There you go.
Because they just won the NBA title.
It's not. I'm just saying it's incredible what Canada has done. Absolutely.
No. Okay.
But Greg, relax. It's soccer. Okay.
No.
Come to me in Paris. This is when the reputations will be on the line, when all countries will send their best players.
Can I ask you something?
I agree. This is super important for Canada, and Canadian basketball fans should be watching every day because this team is excellent. It is elite. Okay? And they are going through their progressions, what they need to be doing for this program. I'm not taking anything out of that progression for Team Canada. But the problem is that it is still the FIBA World Cup. It's not even like the Euros or the World Cup of soccer. Okay? We are Europa League right now in what we're watching with the FIBA World Cup.
The reason you're saying that is just because you're just making that up. Like there's no other basis for that other than you're just saying it.
I'm looking at the rosters of the teams. It's not
the roster of the USA. Like, what are you talking about? The world doesn't revolve around the USA.
They have the best team. They're perennial champions.
You know what? You know how I know you're wrong? Because if the U.S. loses, and they've already lost in this tournament, so we can't 100%. Really say
they could lose to Germany. Germany's a good team.
For sure. But my point is, if they lose, do you know how big of a deal this will be that the U.S. lost the World Cup?
I mean, no, not really.
You think they're not going to care if the U.S. loses?
You think
Are you crazy?
If the USA wins FIBA World Cup bronze,
Yeah.
You think that that's going to make top of PTI?
Yes, they're going to be like, what's
Not
wrong
a
with USA
chance.
basketball?
Bro,
Why are we not
football
sending our best
starts
team?
this week. Football is this weekend. It won't even get mentioned on PTI if they do get bronze.
If they lose, you're so wrong about this. What
There's
are you talking
a full
about?
slate of pro and college football.
You
Timmy and I
honestly
were talking about a real sports story about an amazing performance by the Colorado Buffaloes and your boy Coach Prime.
First off, college football is the biggest sham of any sport there is possible. So I don't even know what you're talking about.
Not arguing.
Yeah, so I don't even know. I don't even know. You're talking about a fake sport. Talk about a made-up sport. Let's hype up all these things. We'll have these kids travel around the country, miss class, collect money under the table, then be like, oh, week 0. And then week 1, we'll have top teams play like nobody teams and blow them out by like 50 and be like, yeah, college sports is amazing. Let's move on to the next blowout. That means absolutely nothing because you can already tell me who the 4 teams that will be in the final.
Florida State Seminoles.
You're just
number 1 seed
point.
overall.
You're proving
Here's the difference. Here's the difference between the FIBA World Cup and college football. People watch college football by the millions. Americans
watch college football.
More people in America watch college football than there are in Canada.
Sorry?
More people watched college football this past Saturday than live in Canada.
But you keep missing the point of the FIBA World Cup of basketball. It's not just about Canada. It's not just about the US. Luka, did you see my guy at the press conference? My guy is depressed. Yeah, because he just lost. He just let his country down. That matters outside of the U.S., where Deion Sanders can talk shit because he won 1 game. And then if they lose next week, nobody's going to care.
Nebraska, big game.
You're going to talk to me about Nebraska?
Matt Rule, former Temple coach?
You're going to really talk to me about Nebraska?
Well, I tell you,
come on,
the
bro.
Buffs, man. I'm already looking ahead to USC. It's USC. It's USC Colorado, September 30th. I'm
going to be rooting so hard for the U.S. to lose just to prove the point that
I think this U.S. team loses to Canada in the finals. I don't think the talent discrepancy is. I mean, you look at the starting 5 that Canada puts up. They got the best player in the tournament.
Yeah, but it's about depth, right? And that's how the USA is going to win.
They just beat a Luka team that had you and I playing for them on their bench. And they made it to the or the quarterfinals.
Listen, this is Andrew Webster moving the point, moving the goalpost to keep his insane take making sense.
No.
Hold on. The World Cup of basketball, okay? This is a tournament that matters outside the world because the other reason why it matters is because it involves seeding for said Olympics that you are telling me is the biggest thing that matters. So when Luka loses today, they still haven't qualified for the Olympics next year. So they're going to have to go into a last chance tournament right before the summer or right before the summer games next year to make it. So you can't tell me that this tournament doesn't matter when you have teams like France that still have to make, France is going to qualify because they're the host team. But like Spain is going to have to be in this last chance tournament. Greece and Giannis are going to have to be in this last chance tournament. Like, what are we talking about here? You can't tell me that this doesn't matter, but the Olympics matter when this is to get into the Olympics.
Shouldn't we be more excited about this last chance tournament then? Because Canada's already booked their spot and the USA has already booked their spot. Why are we even going to watch this? Why are we even going to watch the semifinals and the finals when, like you say, it doesn't even matter? There's another tournament after this that teams can make the Olympics.
Do you know why? Do you really want to know why we're going to watch ahead?
I'll tell you why. Because we're getting excited about Canada basketball.
No.
And we're seeing them take these steps. Because that's what this tournament's for.
In this like microwavable world where we just get stories and then move on to the next thing that comes on our timeline, we need to take a second and appreciate historical things that are happening in terms of the World Cup of basketball, these like senior men's competitions that have been taking place for hundreds of years, and we're seeing Canada do things that they've never done in the history of their program. And I think that part needs to be put on a pedestal because all these stats, like SGA is doing things that like Leo Routens did as like a high schooler for this Canadian national team in like 1978. That's insane. Jay Triano ball it out in the Olympics for Canada in like what, 1988 or something like that. Like, these are things that we have not seen before. We had Steve Nash on the show earlier today, right? And seeing the glow on that man's face as he's talking about Gilgeous-Alexander, because he's talking about, like, the question was about, hey, you're watching Shai and you being a guy who had to carry the weight of that nation on your back, trying to take them to heights that they've never seen before. Like, watching all that and seeing the glow in Steve Nash's face, that's a man who's a 2-time MVP of the NBA that you're telling me matters more. And he says out of his own mouth, the most important, the biggest games of his career were playing in a Canada jersey in the Olympics.
There you go.
Because you have to
I didn't see Steve Nash saying, I remember when I was playing in the FIBA World Cup. But listen, I'm getting ahead of myself. Because I'm getting ahead of myself because I think you're right. I think that what I'm doing is not putting enough importance on getting those pieces of metal, even if it is for something like a FIBA World Cup or a lesser tournament than a tournament like the Olympics, right? Yes, you as a country, as a basketball country, you need to start collecting those golds no matter where they come from. So you can really start to elevate your national basketball program. And maybe because of how I view FIBA and these international tournaments that aren't the Olympics, I'm not putting as much importance in those goals as I am the Olympic goals. Okay? And that's on me. Absolutely. It's on me that I don't think that FIBA is best on best, is the best players in the world coming together to play to see, okay, we're the best country in the world. Okay? And that's okay.
No, but it's also incorrect because in the Olympics, you have to be represented equally from teams across the world. So you have like South Sudan that's already qualified for the Olympics, and South Sudan isn't one of the top basketball nations in the world.
But they might be in the continent of Africa where they had to qualify to get in, right?
But just like my point. FIBA. The World Cup has way more better teams that will be in the World Cup as opposed to in the Olympics. There's going to be really good teams that don't make the Olympics. That's my point as to why this matters more.
The best team year or Olympics in, Olympics out will be sending their best team. And that is the mountain that you got to climb. If you're going to be the best you can't, after this tournament, look me in the face with a straight face and say Canada's the best international basketball team in the world.
But you just said earlier in this conversation that if Canada beats the U.S. or loses to the U.S., they're the second best team in the world.
Absolutely.
So then
they're already there. They're already the second best team in the world. But what I'm saying is if they beat the U.S. in this tournament and win FIBA gold, that does not make them the best international team in the world. Do you agree with that?
Listen, I don't care what the U.S. does. The U.S.
I'm not saying. I asked you a question. Do you agree? If Canada wins this tournament, you
play to win the game.
That's not an answer to my question.
When you win the game and you win the gold medal, you would then be the top-ranked team heading into the Olympics.
So if Canada wins this international tournament, Sheldon Alexander will tell Andrew Webster that Canada is the best international basketball team in the world.
Correct.
Okay.
You play to win the game. That's not Canada's fault that the U.S. is like, we're going to put Austin Reeves on our freaking national team. Okay. Like, that's not Canada's fault.
Okay. That's all I wanted to ask.
Listen, man, this is a really good moment for Canada.
What would this podcast be if I were like Shelly? Yes. It's all wine and roses. Let's pop champagne for beating a Lithuanian or a Slovenian team with one of the best players in the world and a team of junk behind it. Where would this podcast be if I didn't give you a little bit of
This is what international basketball is. This is what international sports is. You play who's in front of you. Absolutely. We don't say anything about hockey. The whole streets are packed with hockey when Canada wins gold in hockey and you're playing against nobody. Bars are packed every year to watch the World Juniors.
Has a pretty good team in the Olympics, and it's best on best.
When you're playing the World Juniors and Canada's beating whoever, bars are packed and everyone's watching that. All I'm saying is asking for a little bit of national pride for something that should be on the same level as some of those other competitions, because there is more competition worldwide in basketball than there is competition in the things that we just promote, like hockey all the time, because Canada's good.
Soccer.
Listen, hold on. The pub and the sponsorship and all the hype machine that was behind Canada's soccer team is way more than's behind Canada's basketball team.
Absolutely.
And that should not be the case, because Canada's basketball team is better. They're performing better. They have a better team finally. Like, they should be bigger names, but yet the sponsorship and all that is all based around the rest of the world telling us what's important. What I'm pleading for is for us here in Canada to accept what is important, and for us to designate, hey, this is important. We should get behind these guys. Shai should be a way bigger star. Dylan Brooks, no Canadian should slander Dylan Brooks ever again in the history of time. Because what my guy just did for this team to help them qualify for the Olympics and to hopefully medal in this World Cup of Basketball tournament, like, we need to stop paying attention to whatever foolish narratives Americans have, whatever the rest of the world has, and big up our own people in terms of what is a big deal and what is a big story. And Shai is a star, and it's on us, as Canadian media, as Canadian basketball fans, as Canadian sports fans, to get behind our own people and put them on the pedestal, because who's doing bigger work for a Canadian athlete right now than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
First team All-NBA.
Toe-to-toe with the world's best.
There's two candidates.
Hitting clutch.
There's two candidates.
I'm out. Peace.
Later.
I don't disagree.
I was asking Timmy, how much money are you going to spend on a Dylan Brooks Canada jersey? $80?
I'm waiting on my Shai Gilgeous jersey. It's coming
$80 for a Dylan Brooks jersey?
No, I got a Shai jersey that's on the way.
Okay, I agree. Absolutely. We should be giving this team its flowers. For me, it's more about the progression of where this team was 4, 8, 12, 16 years ago to where they are today. That's what's exciting. And what's exciting is what's next to come. Now, for sure, like I say, get those chips, pull them down, start adding them to your awards, to your trophy cabinet. Get those FIBAs, get those North American CONCACAF basketball, whatever. But the prize chip, the thing that is going to put your team, your country's name in the record book, especially when it comes to this sport internationally, is an Olympic gold medal.
But we can start that now, is what I'm saying. There's no need to wait, because here's what happens, okay? And here's how things really work and break down. Shai talked about how Corey Joseph was his OG, and coming up under Corey and seeing the national team matter to Corey made him want to play. Add in the fact that his mom was an Olympian. That matters. We obviously know that RJ's dad is the head of the Canadian national team program, right? We know the family ties with Shai and Nikhil. We know Dylan Brooks played with all those guys on the way up. But you got to think about this, right? They look at Corey. Corey came back into the program with Kelly Olynyk and those guys when Nash came on board to make the program matter, right? We know Leo put in work to make the program matter. Jay Triano, blood, sweat, and tears for this program. You have those people that build the energy, that build all the currency within this country, telling us that this stuff matters. And that trickles down. And now you have the Shais. You have the opportunity where you're missing Jamal Murray and you're able to now compete for a medal in a world competition. That is incredible. And we should be celebrating this. And I get mad because I feel like I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the fact that this isn't a bigger deal. I get that it's on early in the morning and I understand all that. But we have the internet. We have, Twitter timelines. We have all this technology at our fingertips to continue to make this a bigger story. And that's why what has me mad, right? Because people are going to jump on this whole thing late when we could have been here riding with this team from last week and the week before and last summer when they were trying to play. We should make this such a big deal that guys like I was about to say Andrew Webster, but I meant Andrew Wiggins, right? That guys like Andrew Wiggins, they'll get dissed for not wanting to play for Team Canada. They'll feel so ashamed that they didn't play for Team Canada and they're sitting at home watching this team do that because you're supposed to want to play for your country. And so when you go down to the next level, hold on. And so when you go down to the next level, the trickle down, the kids that are going to be the next wave of Wiggins, Jamal Murray, Shai, Nikhil, those kids that are in like high school right now, they're up early watching this tournament, Labor Day weekend, knowing that it matters, hyped up with their boys, hyped up with their crew. And when they make it, there's no doubt. There's no question about will they play for their country.
Yeah, where you want to
Shea did
be
it.
is you
And
want
I
to be a
think that's where we
program.
got to get to.
You
And
want
I
to be
feel the responsibility on our back is talking into these microphones. And I know we talk and just like bullshit and have fun, but like I came on this hyped up, fired up to talk about this because I feel like we need to make this a bigger deal.
This program, the Canadian basketball program, needs to be in the position where the U.S. is, where instead of we're begging and pleading Canadian NBA players to play on the national team to make tough decisions. You know what? Yep. I don't know if you're going to fit in with the system. We got a core already. We've got a team already. And now we've got to see, well, are you going to fit or no?
Yeah.
That's where this program needs to be to start competing with the likes of the U.S. internationally. Because, like I said, the U.S., I would say, did not send one member of their starting five that they're going to put on the court in Paris.
I feel like Anthony Edwards might have like earned his spot there.
Starting
but I wonder like who are the guys like the older class, you know, the older statesmen, who's going to come for the last hurrah? You think Steph will go?
Curry, Durant, LeBron, are all these guys going to play?
I don't know.
LeBron probably won't. One more?
LeBron probably won't. But the one thing is that it's Paris, and Paris might get like if there's something to get LeBron out there, it might be Paris, right? I wasn't even thinking that, but I like that.
Okay, I know you're pumped, and I know the love, the passion of Canada basketball is there, but Sheldon, we got to talk.
Yep.
Because we are one day away from the kickoff of the NFL season, and I love international basketball. Whether here's the stage or the Olympic stage, but let's talk about NFL, baby.
So
we are
here's
back.
The thing,
it's been a long summer.
The thing, though. Here's how we bring it all together, Webby. Because you know what's breaking down right now. You're gonna have Canada win their semifinal matchup on Friday.
Okay.
The U.S. win their semifinal matchup on Friday, setting up a Sunday morning 8:45 gold medal game between Canada and the U.S. that will perfectly lead right into the first Sunday of the NFL season. Are you not entertained?
I'm ready. We're back.
Are you not entertained? This is what I'm saying, right? Imagine that gold medal, Canada versus the U.S. heading into week 1 of the NFL season. What more do you want as a sports fan? We're here. We love the NFL on this pod. Obviously, we all cheer for different teams, which makes it a lot of fun. But with the NFL season here, moving your team aside for a sec, what is it that excites you the most about this season?
Both of our teams are expected to do very well, Sheldon.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
But we could go on and on for days about the Eagles and the 49ers. But there, like you say, are some awesome storylines out there.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the one that kind of, I mean, it's kind of a cop-out to do this, but I think the AFC East might be the most interesting story of the NFL season to me.
Okay.
Because, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is in New York now.
Yeah.
Bright lights, big city, brand new team, skilled position players off the chain, on Hard Knocks, a lot of pub. And then down in Miami, we've got one of the huge stories from last year was Tua Tagovailoa with the concussions. What did he have? 3? Tagovailoa? I almost made it.
Tagovailoa.
3 concussions in the offseason. Said he thought about retiring. And now comes back with a Miami team that we saw, if he's healthy, can do amazing things offensively.
Yeah.
They get to add a piece defensively, Jalen Ramsey, a couple of games into the season. They're going to have a tremendous defense if everybody stays healthy. And then Buffalo, what's been going on in Buffalo the last couple of years?
Yeah.
13 seconds away from, getting to an NFC or AFC championship game. A team that's, again, has been doing it for the last couple of years, but can't get over the hump. And then Bill Belichick. I know the Pats aren't expected to do much, but when you have the greatest coach in NFL history and those other 3 storylines all happening in one division, I mean, usually for me, it's the NFC East that I'm watching, but I think this year the AFC East is where all my interest lies.
So I'll totally agree with you. I think it's a great storyline going there because it's like whatever happens with the Jets will be entertainment.
It's going to be
right.
news.
Yeah, if it blows up, it'll be terrible. If Aaron Rodgers is balling out in New York City in that green and white, like that'll be a massive, massive story, and he will be everywhere. Um, the Bills really interest me though too, because it's like we've been told year after year that the Bills are there, they're going to win, they have the best team, and they can't get to the Super Bowl, right? They haven't been able to do it. Is their window closing? There's a little bit of a debate there about where that's going. As the NFL, the windows are short. The windows are very short in the NFL. And if you're the Buffalo Bills and how your season has ended the last couple years, how many times are you going to get the opportunity to knock on that door, especially with how difficult things are in the entire AFC, right? Because you still got Mahomes, you still got Burrow, right? You still got the Chargers trying to figure out what they are, right? We know the Ravens and Lamar are going to be back because they're always in the mix somehow. Like there's so many good teams in the AFC that if you're Buffalo, you got to cash in your chips at one of these points because you're not going to consistently be in the championship game or be on the brink of the championship game. So yeah, you're totally right. And same thing with Tua. The way that his injuries, sort of took over the headlines last year, you wonder how it's going to be officiated. You wonder how the medical staff in Miami is going to hold up and take care of him this season, because that certain things happened last year and they're very quick to just sit him down and say, hey, we're going to take a couple weeks. We're going to do this, right? So you wonder how that's going to play out in year 2. But for me, I got to say the one thing that I want to do this year, I'm interested in seeing what happens with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. And I know this is easy to say because Patrick Mahomes is always great. We know he's the trajectory that he's on, and coming off another Super Bowl win, he's climbing his way into certain conversations, right? But you look at their skill positions, and I know Travis Kelce is hurt and he might not play to start the season. Yeah. But you look at that receiving core, and it's kind of like, if he's doing it with these dudes this year, again, after what he did last year, after Tyreek leaves, this guy is just on another planet. And I feel like he's entering that like level of just superstar athlete where you gotta just sit back and appreciate it.
Yeah.
Whether you're loving or hating the Chiefs, or you root against them, division rival, whatever it is, he is just that good that you just have to watch and be in awe of what my guy does, because a couple times a year he's doing shit that you've never seen before. And that part is really cool for me as just a fan watching this. The other thing I love though, Webby, and I'm going to turn this around a little bit here, is all the chatter before the season starts, because everyone's team has a chance. Yeah. Everyone's team thinks they have a chance.
Everybody's team has a chance, and everybody's in the best shape they've ever been in coming out of camp. So oh man, he is just a rock this year.
So the next thing I want to talk about is who's the biggest flop this season. And I'll start because I really think that like the Detroit Lions are getting so much hype this season. Really? Okay. And I understand it and I get it. And I think they'll be all right. But it's just like, I'll never be in a position where I'm taking the Lions as like serious contenders. That's just not a place where I'm ever going to live. So we're going to hear this year after year. And this year it seems to be even like bigging itself up even more about the Lions being a team to look out for. Maybe they win the division and like all these things. And it's just like, they're still the Lions at the end of the day, man. Right? We know come Thanksgiving, you're going to be struggling to talk yourself into the Lions covering a spread on Thanksgiving, right? Because that's where we always are somehow, some way with the Lions. And it's entertaining with Dan Campbell, but at the end of the day, you're the Detroit Lions. And there's just certain things.
And the name's going to catch up to you.
Yeah. Certain things that stick. So for you, who's the flop team for you that's getting like so much hype that like there's no way they live up to that?
Okay, so this is kind of cheating because they're not really getting a ton of hype they're getting a little bit of hype to squeak in to a playoff team and to see their development continue, but I think that they're just going to be god awful as the Chicago Bears.
Okay. No. I'll take that. I'll accept that answer for sure.
I think the Bears are going to be like up there for top 3, top 5 worst records in the league this year. I like Fields. I think he can do a lot. I just don't think that team is where everybody thinks they are
Mhm.
in terms of upfront. They made the move to get DJ Moore, and listen, I know he's super talented, and I know if he gets the chances, he can do really big things.
Yeah.
But you also are going to a system where, with a quarterback who was unbelievable running the ball last year, but I'm still not sure if he can hit the broad side of a barn throwing the ball. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how much DJ Moore is going to help that. So I don't think that they're going to be that good. And then the one that, you know me, like you're going to say it's a homer pick, but I don't think Dallas has it this year. I don't. I like, I said last week I really like the Giants.
Mhm.
I think they're going to be, I think that they win the division,
Okay.
the New York Football Giants. And I like Washington.
Okay.
I think Washington's got a really good defense, and I think they've got a really good receiver in Dotson. I'm just not sure about Sam Howell or
Yeah.
their running backs, but I think that they could be good. But Dak sucks. Dak's not good, and I know you're gonna say, like, I don't want to say, oh, everybody forgets, because how could you forget? Because now he's in Los Angeles with the Chargers. But having Dak suck and then losing Kellen Moore, I don't know how that's gonna help Dak Prescott as a quarterback
Yeah.
and that offense.
And that Mike McCarthy is now taking control. But
Yeah,
between Mike McCarthy, who is like the biggest fraudster of all fraudsters, and I always like bringing it up because I just find it to be the most incredible story ever, that after getting the job in Dallas during the press conference, they asked him a question because he said that he watched every single play from the Cowboys previous season, and at the press conference he admitted that he lied and that was not true. It's like, wait,
we've all fudged the LinkedIn page,
for sure. But I'm saying that guy is now going to be in charge of calling all the plays because
Speaks
basically
fluent French.
He has no more chips left before he gets fired, right?
Yeah,
so okay, cool.
I think that honestly, Cowboys fans might be like, "Oh, you're an idiot. We've got this great offense. Our defense is unbelievable." But deep down, I think if you asked a Cowboys fan, if you could sacrifice this season to get rid of McCarthy and either promote the defensive coordinator, I always forget his name. I always want to call him Dan Campbell, but Dan Campbell's in Detroit. But the defensive coach who used to be in Atlanta, I think they want him to be their head coach. And I think that if you honestly asked a Cowboys fan, would you sacrifice this season, potentially moving on from Dak to bring in a new head coach and kind of revamp this team, I think they would do it. And I think that's smart for the Cowboys.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the other part of the Cowboys too. I know they made the trade for Trey Lance, which people try to make into a thing, which doesn't make sense because Trey Lance is
not a thing. Trey Lance is not a thing.
Exactly. But like, the reason I bring it up though is just because there's so many questions around the Cowboys, and I feel like the Cowboys, all the BS around the Cowboys every year will always stop them from reaching their top potential because there's just too much trash around them every single year.
Serious people. The Dallas Cowboys are not serious people.
I mean, I'm not really going to argue that. And the thing that I was going to counter to, you talking about Washington was just anytime your coach ignites a beef between your brand new offensive coordinator and the rest of the team very early in training camp, not a good look. And two, when that same head coach acknowledges that I wish I knew that Sam Howell was that good last year, as if you weren't the coach last year.
This is also the coach there. This is also the coach that didn't know that the playoffs were on the line in a game that they blew.
So there's no way I could take Washington seriously. But again, I can't take Washington as any more than the frisky team that I like taking the points with. Do you know what I mean?
But ask any Washington football team fan out there, would you sacrifice this season to lose Ron Rivera and bring in Eric Bieniemy as your head coach, which is definitely going to happen. Definitely going to happen probably mid-season if this team is as bad as a lot of people think they are. But I think Ron Rivera's time is just ticking, man. Like, they have the best coordinator in the game, like somebody who should have been a head coach already, that's just waiting there to take over this team. New owner, and they're not going to replace the coach. I don't know.
So the other interesting thing though about this NFL season is you talk about like who's going to be the coaches to get fired.
Ooh.
Is because no, but here's the thing that I'm very interested in, because there's a guy who plays for a certain team. What are their colors? Like, is it Stanford in gold and USC? I think it is, right? He's a quarterback, I think. That
Yeah.
real
good.
Every time you blow into the mic, it makes me laugh so hard.
But what about are you but I think
But I'm saying, do you fire your terrible coach this season if you're this franchise, or do you let your terrible coach rock out because he might get you closer to the star quarterback that it appears that a lot of teams might be waiting for?
You're talking about the Cardinals.
Oh, well, hey,
I don't know. There's so many teams that are really bad that have bad head coaches.
Yes, true.
You know, but they just brought Gannon on. So I think with the Cardinals, they brought on a head coach who's bad enough.
Yeah.
With a roster that's so bad that they're going to be in the mix. But
are you a believer in Caleb Williams?
How can you not be?
I'm just asking. He's
so legit. He is really legit. But again, I know that you don't want to talk about the Buffs and Coach Prime, but
no. Let's go. Let's go.
What about Coach
It was just
Prime?
too early. It was just too early. We needed to get more Shai Gilgeous-Alexander takes off before we switched off to talk about Coach Prime. Okay.
I'd be tanking the season for 2 Colorado Buffaloes players, that DB wide receiver and his son, who's the quarterback. They were electric. But that's the thing, is that everybody thought coming into the season, it was just going to be the 1, maybe 2 with May in North Carolina. Those were going to be the 2, but college football is so funny, right? And performances can happen and careers can be formed in the course of a season. So it may not be the fact that, the Rams need to lose every game or the Cardinals need to lose every game to get a franchise-changing player. I mean, those guys could be out there. So I think we're going to see a lot of I don't think it's going to be a suck for luck. We've got to lose to get Caleb. I think if you lose out on Caleb as a number 1 overall draft pick and you still need a quarterback, I think there's going to be talent there.
Okay. Yeah, this NFL season, I want to focus in more on the NFL than college because I feel
Yes.
Yeah, the NFL just as it's about to start.
Buffalo story is awesome.
Yeah.
They only returned like 4 or 5 guys from their entire team last year. Can you imagine being one of those kids and being like, yeah, fuck it, no, I'm gonna stay, and Coach Prime comes in and just fires you up?
Yeah.
That's
it's a great story, and he gets to do the victory lap for sure for 1 week because everyone was talking about how like crazy it was what he was trying to do. So hey, give him the 1 week. The celebration is on. I know a lot of people ripped up their under tickets for what the Buffalo's number was going to be this year in terms of win total, but in terms of the NFL, I'm excited for this NFL season just because it brings back the routine of Sundays and feeling absolutely no shame of me sitting on my couch for an entire day watching football.
This is what I've done.
This
is what I've done as a dad, is that I've gotten my daughter excited for when the red zone music comes on, and so like, we'll be playing puzzles, we'll be reading, we'll be playing Peppa Pig, but we're going to have red zone on for 7 hours of commercial-free football come Sunday. I can't wait. It's the best time of the year. Like you say, this Sunday is going to be fantastic. Got to be up early watching that, hopefully Canada USA finals game. Roll it right into football. Now, I know I don't want to step on any toes in terms of another podcast you might be doing that you guys have had lots of success the last couple of years, but if you could save 1 or 2 of what you're eyeing on betting wise for Sunday, is there any spreads that have you? Are you looking at any work?
Well, I'll do this. Here, I'll do this because obviously we're recording this on Wednesday. I'll give the Thursday night pick. I'm going to roll with the Chiefs here. And the real thing was the Chiefs line is down now. It went down to 4.5 now. I'm sure that's because of Travis Kelce being out, or probably being out.
Good time to buy it.
Yeah, but I'm going to roll with the Chiefs here. And the reason I'm rolling with the Chiefs is just because I feel like I'm just in the Mahomes zone right now. And I feel like Andy Reid, who I know you're familiar with as an Eagles fan, but
I know his work.
He's playing 3D chess, man. And if you need to run the ball a little more, we saw last year, they can figure that out and play that style of play. And then you still have Mahomes sitting back, making whatever receivers they throw out there look good. So you're telling me most often than not, and my guy Matt Russell, who normally does the betting pod with me, will always laugh because most often than not, if I can get the Chiefs at less than a touchdown, I'm in on that parade. So Travis Kelce being out, obviously that's a massive deal. But to me, that just strikes me as something that Andy Reid sits back and says, hey, that's a challenge. Let me mix up the running game here. Let me, figure it out.com.
I was just trying to look it up, but I just had it on my screen a little while ago. I may have gotten rid of it, but you should look at Mahomes' numbers in all of his season opening games, because let me tell you, they are stunning.
Yeah.
I think he may have one interception his entire career in season opening games. Mahomes, as we know, likes to be on the Netflix, likes to be a showman. Wouldn't surprise me, even with no Kelce and a questionable Kadarius Toney. We don't even know if he's going to play or whatever. I would be shocked if Mahomes doesn't come out game one and assert some dominance and say, hey, I know that there's been a lot of headlines and the weapons that I don't have, and ends up carving up Detroit. Because I like the Lions this year, I've especially offensively, but I don't see if a pissed off Mahomes isn't going to carve them up pretty good.
Well, the thing to me with Patrick Mahomes is that he's so good, and he has to be so good because it just covers up how corny he actually is in real life. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine if Patrick Mahomes wasn't good. He'd be getting clowned so much, right? Just because of the cornball vibes that he puts on, right? But I don't know if you saw the clip.
He comes up big.
Which is why it makes it all okay. Which is why we're all like, you know what? Cornballs can ball out too. And my guy balls out. So have you seen that clip from, I think it was like a GQ interview with Patrick Mahomes and his wife, and they're playing like the newlywed game.
Oh yeah. The question. Oh no.
Why are you around?
Oh no.
So for people who haven't seen the clip, they're basically asking each other questions. And the one question to Mahomes' wife, who I'll remind you, they've been together since high school. The question was, what is Patrick Mahomes' cheat meal? And without even blinking, homegirl says, fried chicken.
Just like that as well.
And I'm going to say something for added context here as to why Webster kind of like shuddered in fear here. For those who might not be aware who Patrick Mahomes' wife is, he's married to a white woman. And I'm going to say this as a black man.
That's the only real...
Okay.
That's really the only people who say fried chicken like that are white women.
Or when a white company is trying to portray black people. So like, those Popeyes commercials,
Bojangles commercials down south. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I say this because it's like, come on, man. What's the one thing that you cannot say?
Yeah.
Is a favorite meal of your black husband.
Oh, no.
Right? And the way that she said it. And on top of that, we didn't even get to the kicker. He's like, no, that's not it. And then she guessed again. She guessed like chicken steak or something like that. I can't remember. Chicken fried steak. And he's like, no, Mexican food.
She wasn't even close.
Not even close.
And he gave her an out. He didn't even say enchiladas or tostadas. No, he just put a blanket Mexican food out there. It's like, honestly, hitting a barn, right?
Right? Oh. And it's just like she was so confident. And it's like, come on. Even if that is the correct answer, you have to know that you can't say that. Right? Get the answer wrong. Just let him say it if he's gonna say it. That clip is amazing. But I bring that up just to say that's how good Mahomes has to be. He has to cover up for all this other stuff around him, right? Or else we'd be just making fun of him all the time, like your man's Russell Wilson.
Let's get on board. There you go. Let's get on board with this. We're gonna do a wife swap. We're going to take Patrick
Ooh,
Mahomes' wife, put her with Russell Wilson. We're going to take
wow.
Ciara, and we're going to put her with Patrick Mahomes. Where do we
Wow.
stand?
Wow. You just blew my mind there. But here's the thing, right? Like, I feel like regardless of who Mahomes
Broncos
is,
country, let's ride.
well, this article from, who was it, Seth Wickersham, talking about Sean Payton, told Russell Wilson that to salvage his career, he needed to focus less on, quote, Russell Inc., and said, quote, will you fucking stop kissing all the babies? You're not running for public office.
Yeah.
Close
It's what
quote.
somebody should have told Russ in Seattle a long time ago. Shut the fuck up, dude.
But how does that leak into the press before the season starts? That's not a good look for Russ and Ciara in Denver.
No. Yeah. Do you think we see Stidham as a starting quarterback in Denver this year? What and where do you stand? Do you think Denver is like? I mean, it's such a tough division there because of you got the Chargers ahead of you ostensibly, and obviously the Chiefs. Do you think Denver makes any noise this year with a Sean Payton?
No,
Or is this more of a, hey, give me a year to put things in place, organize some things, and then next year we'll be ready to go. But you're still going to have that Russ contract, which is
they're going to have to eat that contract, and that's just a reality of the situation. I get that the new owners were trying to make a splash, and that's why they came up with that. But like, this is just not going to work. And Russ, you know what, man? Just pack it in. Enjoy your life with Ciara. Life could be a whole lot easier, man. Life could be a whole lot easier, my dude.
Okay, I did have an idea of one segment that I wanted to do on this podcast, okay?
Okay.
One segment, and I wish we had all the boys here with it, and maybe next week we can. We'll get this ball rolling, okay? Very easy segment. It's called Main Screen Game. I want you to give me one game on the slate this weekend that you're putting up, boom, on your main screen. It can be a homer pick. It could be try and keep it in the early or late window, not a Sunday nighter or a Monday nighter. But what's your main screen game this week?
So I'm being totally honest, and I'll be very upfront about when I'm being a homer and when I'm not being a homer, right? So my answer is, for real, the Niners and Steelers. And it's not because I'm a Niners fan. It's because there's so many people picking the Steelers to upset the Niners in this game. And I'm just fascinated to see how this actually plays out. People are expecting the Steelers to make a jump. Kenny Pickett, obviously, they finished the year strong last year. Tomlin always has his boys rolling. We get it. We understand. But the Niners are still a really solid team, even without Bosa, who's still holding out. I get all that. I'm just super interested to see how that game plays out, because you're talking about the Niners, who were one of the top teams in the conference last year. Speaking of teams with a window that's closing that have massive expectations, that's them. They had a flub early last year, if you remember, to the Chicago Bears, right? They should be on high alert for the same thing happening this year. Exactly. Right. And so you look at it this year, Brock Purdy, the pressure's going to be on right away, playing in Pittsburgh.
Big question mark. Big question mark. That's a big reason to watch too.
Yeah.
See if Brock Purdy can come back from that injury and to see if he can keep the momentum rolling that he had from last year before.
So that's the main screen game for me, especially at 1:00 for sure.
So you stole mine. That was going to be mine. Because I am one of the people that thinks Pittsburgh is going to do really well this year.
Okay.
Obviously, the head coaches are so important, and Mike Tomlin is one of the best that we have in the game. Mm-hmm. I fully believe that. I'm really excited to see this offense. I'm a Kenny Pickett believer. Say what you will. Pickens is awesome. Deontay is awesome. Najee, I know a lot of people are up and down, but they've got another running back in Jalen Waddle, who I'm excited to watch to see how they start to use him. And then, of course, Pittsburgh every year, say what you will, has a pretty good defense. And you talk about Nick Bosa not being there. Somebody who is going to be there and 100% healthy is TJ Watt, who arguably would be 1-2 with Bosa if both were healthy for Defensive Player of the Year. Mm-hmm. So I think I think people are excited to watch the Steelers get an early test. I think the 49ers ultimately will win the game, but I think it's going to be a great game. Now, I could go – so I picked another one. I could go, chalk and do the Eagles against the Pats, but I don't think it's going to be I think the Eagles are going to kick the shit out of the Pats pretty good.
Okay.
But it will definitely be on my main screen come
Okay.
the 4 o'clock window. But the other one that I had to kind of scramble was Dolphins and Chargers. You want to talk about two question mark teams that have a lot of people excited about them. Justin Herbert, Tua, the high-flying, high-speed offense of Miami against a really good receiving core and Austin Eckler in the Chargers. I think it's a good early season test. I don't really know where to go. I don't know. I mean, you always do Miami's got to go across the country and play on the West Coast. They may have already been there for a week and a half before the game. So I just think it's going to be a really fun game, and it's definitely one to watch for fantasy wise and betting wise. I don't even know what the line is on that one.
Yeah, I mean, hey, week 1 of the NFL season,
Chargers
what a time.
favored by 3. Like, why not sprinkle a little on the Dolphins for a little underdog money line?
Underdog love for sure. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, working on the Picks Pod for sure. The Picks Pod is back.
Yes,
we'll be back for another year for sure.
You guys have an unreal record. If you guys are gambling fans, you're out there listening to this pod, and you want winners. You want winners, Shelly. Tell them what the record was just last season. Don't even go a couple years back, because your run, 3-year run, has been pretty crazy.
Last year was pretty good. Last year we finished off at like 58% against the spread. And like, I know people who might not be familiar with gambling don't really understand what that means, but basically you got to be at 52.5, 53% to be profitable. You're really good if you're at like 55%. You're having a pretty good year. 60 is like, you're like the fucking man. There. So we had a really good last year against the spread. And I pick against the spread every single game on the sched. So that's kind of the bit that we have. I'll make a pick. Matt will, either agree or disagree, try to get me to change my pick. We kind of talk it out, and I come out on the other end with, just whatever the final pick will be. So yeah, we'll be doing that this year. We partner with Clutch Points. Nice. So if you search for that podcast, it's called the Clutch Picks Betting Podcast.
Let me pump your tires just a little bit more, because again, a lot of us out there who listen may be novices in gambling, may not know. I certainly am. But what's so great about that pod, Shelly, is that you guys, it's not a lot of brain expanding esoteric language. You come into it like, hey, this is what I was thinking. I'm thinking about betting on this team. And then you have the expert in Russell who's like, hey, here's why you should, what you should pair with it. It's educational.
Well, it's the thing that I like about it is that we're explaining the difference between the sports talk and then the gambling talk, because sports gambling gets put together, but they're actually two separate things, right? Like, I'm paying attention to teams' numbers against the spread, their record against the spread, as opposed to their actual football record. So I'd have this running joke with one of our former coworkers where I was consistently on the Texans all the time. Right. And he's like, why are you always on the Texans? They suck. And I'm like, yeah, because they're always double-digit underdogs and they cover spreads. So their record against the spread was actually pretty good. Right. And I'd be riding out and be very profitable with them. So it's just understanding the number, understanding the big difference between a team being favored by 3.5 points compared to be favored by just 3. And the difference in all that. So we try to break that down, give a bit of the method to the madness as to why we're making a pick, as opposed to just making a pick. So we're back with that. Search for that for sure. Like and subscribe. We'll talk about it on this pod, of course, each and every week as we go along with it, because what a time to be alive. World Cup of basketball going on. Week 1 of the NFL season going on.
Coach Prime turning the Buffs around. Pac-12 champions, maybe.
We didn't even get to the Jays, who have stumbled their way into a playoff spot right now, which, by the time we meet again next week, they might have stumbled their way out of the playoffs, as they got a big series with the Texas Rangers coming up. But either way, that'll be fun. Just a great time of year. People are talking about summer's over. Meanwhile, it's blazing hot in Toronto right now.
Is it?
So I don't know what people are talking about, but so much going on, Webby. I'm so glad to be able to do this pod. I am so tired working on these FIBA games.
Go take a nap. Get out of here.
At whatever time in the morning, but I couldn't miss this pod.
No,
So
and
much
you know
fun.
what? A good way, you got all those emotions going, you're ramped up after the win, you need a little cool down time. That's what we provide here on the pod.
And my Shai jersey's got to be here soon, baby.
Just
Let's
don't
go.
get the Dylan Brooks. Don't spend the money on the Dylan Brooks.